If you missed class today, we went into more detail in Chapter 6, Public Opinion and Political Action. And as you can see in this section, American Politics Continued, there are 4 rectangles. So please start with this one, Clarenceville polling. And what we did in class is we used the class as a microcosm of the broader America to see if there were any patterns in people's voting behavior or political affiliation, that kind of thing. 4 big things from the polling: correlation and causation, which I'll get into in a second. And the other one is a demographic question versus a research question. A demographic question is something beyond our control. Our age, what city we were born in, can't change that. Now, a research question is a question you have to ask somebody because you don't know what the answer is. For example, hey, Salsiccioli, what's your favorite dessert? Oh, it's carrot cake. Remember that at my birthday. You have to ask me that question. And the point of doing that, can we ascertain from people's demographics? Are there any connections to their political behaviors and thought? Okay, and I hope this helped the content section here. And there are 2 worksheets that go along with this, so please complete those if you were absent, or I'll show you how to do it when you get back from class. So the content piece is right here. And again, the differences between correlation and causation, unfortunately, people confuse them. They misuse these terms. I hope your math teacher taught you this, but if not, let me take you through it. Causation indicates that one event causes another. I'll give you an example. I haven't slept in 36 hours, and I'm tired. The cause of my fatigue is not sleeping for 36 hours. Now, I'm going to go to correlation. I'll use the same example as sleep. Now, correlation only identifies if there is a relationship between 2 events or outcomes. Let's say it was the night before final exams at a university, and I study the people and find out that most of them are kind of stressed and tired. Now, I'm not saying that finals were the causation, but is it more likely you're going to be this way if you attend university? Is it going to be more like this if it's finals week? That kind of thing. Now, a correlation between variables does not automatically mean that the change in one variable is the cause of the change in the values of the other variable. Correlation refers to a non-causal relationship between 2 or more variables, whereas causation refers to a variable directly responsible for causing another variable to occur. And in a causal relationship, one event is directly responsible for another, while in a correlation, 2 events exist simultaneously, but their relationship may or may not be due to a third variable. Okay, so that was the point of that polling. Now, in terms of straight content, we were looking at 3 things: public opinion, demography, and census. Now, the census is taken in America every 10 years, really valuable tool. Who's living where, what type of people are living. In terms of socioeconomics, in terms of race, in terms of ethnicity. That's valuable information. Now, demography is the science of looking at people. Demos in Greek is people. Graphy is an expression of that. So compared to Metro Detroit I was born into, a lot has changed in terms of the people who have moved in, who've moved out, that sort of thing. And then public opinion is how people see politics, whether it's grounded in truth or not. Doesn't really matter, because however you vote is based on your perception. Perception is not always reality, and political scientists tap into this because if they can sway public opinion, they can win the election, if you get that. All right, so if you look at America, America is an immigrant society. You know this from your U.S. history class. Hopefully your U.S. history teacher taught you this. There have been 4 waves of immigrants into this country. The very first, when the country was starting, people from the British Isles, Scots, Welsh, the Dutch, West Africans in the form of slavery. Wave 2 in about the 1840s, Scandinavian people, that's Norway, Denmark, Sweden, the Irish, and the German. From wave 3, that's the Industrial Revolution wave. Your teacher might have posed that as. You have Southern and Eastern Europeans and Russian Jewish people. In wave 4, Arabic people, Mexican people, Asian people. Not to say there haven't been spatterings of all these people throughout the country. Wave is when there's a huge number of people. That's why they make the list. So please don't be like, hey, I know such and he's Irish and he showed up in the 3rd wave. Okay, that kind of stuff. It happens, but you get the point. Okay, so America's always been an immigrant society. Now, the old notion was a melting pot that we all assimilate and blend together. Now, other people claim we're more of a tossed salad. What I mean by that, if you have a tossed salad, it's all in the same bowl, but a tomato's a lot different than a carrot, and a carrot's a lot different than a piece of lettuce. And we talked about that in class, what's a better model, that sort of thing. And as you can see, the trend right now is you have white non-Hispanics going down, and we have um, Hispanic people going up. So if I'm a political scientist, I have to win these votes because as they move up, there's more voters and I need to win them over. So that's the point of studying such things. Again, this melting pot, the reason why it's off-putting to people is I think some people say it makes me lose my identity. It makes me lose where I come from. We don't all melt together in being the same. So again, what's a better model? The melting pot or the tossed salad? Now, here's the shift of what's happening. People have moved, and we are living in the Rust Belt right now, we're called. People are moving to different parts of the country. We have an aging population. A lot of them are snowbirding or moving to the nicer weather. But as people move, it affects states politically. Michigan has lost seats compared to when I was a kid because people have left Michigan to places like Florida and places like Texas and that kind of thing. So these census the data that we get really important for knowing who's where and where the power lies. Now, the graying of America, America is getting old. The biggest group of people was the baby boomer generation. I know there's a slang term, okay, boomer, but if you want to talk about it sociologically, the baby boom or the boomers were from the end of World War II in 1945 to Kennedy in 63. Okay, and there's a ton of those people. These people are collecting benefits, and as they are living longer, and there's a whole lot of them, and there's less new workers, the new workers have a bigger burden paying for these pensions and these retirements and these Social Security. We're going to be talking about that throughout this year. These entitlement programs, can they be solvent? Do they need to be pulled? Do they need to be amended? So America's getting older. Let's keep it simple. Now, in terms of socialization, how do we figure out how we are politically? So this is a tough one because is your influence your family? Is your influence the news you're watching? Is it a piece of pop culture? Is there one issue? Did one news story get you emotional? That's a hard question. I asked the people in class, how did you come up with your own political leanings? Are you copying somebody? Did something happen? Not an easy question to answer. Now, in terms of genetics for political attitude, for the sake of argument, you can look at this to see these correlating factors. Again, this is what political scientists do to try to make their decisions. It's not an exact science by any stretch of the imagination. Now, mass media is a big one. School's a big one. I'll go back to that. Sorry, I went too fast. So the news you watch, if you watch MSNBC all the time, you watch Fox News, you're going to come away with a very different perspective. School, if you go to a private Christian school versus a public school, you're likely going to see things differently. Who is your teacher? Did you have a persuasive teacher, an influential teacher? Did you have a lousy teacher? All these things are determiners of how you are politically. Now, over time, as you get older, the more involved you get. So I just said a second ago, the biggest group of people are these baby boomers. They're very involved and they are very brand loyal to their parties. So the older you get, the more you care about politics. And this is a little bit off the books here, but at your age, you're probably thinking about getting into college or, who's going to take you out to the dance or how am I going to get a car? You're not as concerned about politics as old timers are. They have more time on their hands. They watch a lot more television and that sort of thing. No surprise there. Now, we did this in class polls. Now, a representative sample is taken, and a representative sample is the technique of picking a good cross-section of age, of race, of gender. You don't want it to be all one flavor. So, for example, if I gave a poll of nothing but football players regarding sports at Clarenceville, that's not a very good poll, is it? So I'd have to get a volleyball, a couple track, a couple softball, whatever the case may be. Thank goodness our class provided a random sampling just organically. Now, sometimes people put too much confidence in these polls. Again, not a perfect science. It is not etched in stone. In fact, when we looked at the data the class compiled, that doesn't mean you're going to change throughout the year. You might stay the same. I don't know. Okay. So, in terms of polls, polls help politicians detect preferences. Again, you're trying to win people over. It's a popularity contest. And from that poll data, if you were to poll your constituents and say, our biggest issue is we want a road put into this, this, and this, and you got a whole lot of people, and I'm a politician, I better build that road if I want to keep my job. Now, unfortunately, it says that the critics will say politicians care more about that data than actually what's best for people because they want to cover their own backsides and keep their job. I'll leave that up to you. All right. So the role of polls in American democracy, they can distort, however, they can be good. And you have to be cognizant of how reputable the place giving the poll. Now, the Pew Research Center, anything comes out of the Pew Research Center, you can take it to the bank. That's the primary one that I use throughout the class. Now, with a poll, it might change people's behaviors. So just take them with a grain of salt. They're just an indicator. They are not etched in stone. And what do these polls reveal about American political information? Unfortunately, Americans are pretty gosh darn ignorant about politics, and they don't really know how politics affect them. And Americans don't really trust the government. And you got to bear in mind, since the 60s with the Vietnam War, then we had Watergate in the 70s, and then Carter had a rough presidency, on and on and on. People don't trust the government very much. And I don't think anybody is shocked by that. Another thing, Americans know very little about the broader world. In fact, if you look at this industrialized world here, we are not doing so hot compared to some others. So Americans, unfortunately, don't know very much. They're fairly ignorant and not the most well-informed electorate. Trying to fix that, trying to help it a little bit at a time, but unfortunately, we're not there where we need to be. And you can see that the trust in government is just going down. These are the people who always trust the government. Those are small, small potatoes. And you can see the people who don't trust the government never. Boop. Okay, that is going up. And I think some people in this room feel the same way. You're not alone if that makes you feel any better. Now, political ideology, we talked about this before, liberals, conservatives, what constitutes that. This country at the extremes are pretty bedrock. People are there's a contingency going to vote liberal no matter what, a contingency that's going to vote conservative no matter what. It's that middle group, those independents that make or break elections nowadays. Women tend to be less conservative than men. Also, the more religious you are, the more conservative you tend to be. Again, not causation, correlation. Big difference, okay? And we talked about this in class. You can pause it. I don't have the time. I've already run long. You can see what constitutes a conservative ideology, what constitutes a liberal ideology. And some people are ideologues. Some people really have this notion that they're going to vote based on that. Some people vote what benefits their group. Some people change with the times. And again, it's really hard to key in what makes people feel this way and how they vote. It's a very inexact science. We do our best, but it's not a perfect science. And in terms of participation, you have political participation. Americans aren't great there, but some people are involved. Some people get involved with conventions, get super involved with that, but again, few and far between, and they tend to be older. Protests, some people protest where they say, I'm not going to vote as a form of protest, probably not the best form of protest. But some people will vote for a third party to protest. They didn't care for the two parties. Now, some people take it to a whole nother level, civil disobedience. For example, the Occupy Wall Street and the Black Lives Matter. Those are people who take it to the next level in engaging in civil disobedience to make their point. And as you can see, some people sign petitions, some people go to meetings, some people get in touch with their politicians, some donate money. I don't know if you're noticing this. That's 50%. That means half the people aren't doing jack squat if you interpret that graph as I did. So a lot of people have no opinion. They say, I don't like politics. And a lot of people sit it out, as I said, that 50%. And they just said, it's not my bag. I'm sitting this one out. So to wrap things up, sorry it ran a little long. American society is ethnically diverse and it is changing. Political scientists try to keep up with that. Knowing public opinion is important to democracy. The polling, there's some good things about it. There's some bad things about it. Americans don't know very much about politics, and American political participation is generally low. Hopefully, you all can do a little bit better when you get out into the adult world. Okay, so hope to see you back soon, and hopefully this filled you in enough, and I will see you when you get back.